Don't talk to me till I've had my booze. I mean coffee. Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's Wednesday, we have another cocktail video coming at you. We are in the month of February, which I live here in Iowa. It is very cold. There's a fair amount of snow on the ground. It's hard to get my dog to go outside. So I thought in this month we would focus on hot cocktails. So I like to drink coffee, but I don't like to sacrifice on drinking booze. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but you can actually put booze in your coffee. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start off doing an Irish coffee. This cocktail is, generally speaking, understood to have been developed in 1942 by Joe Sheridan. He would simply put some Irish whiskey in the coffee of the passengers that were arriving. There's a lot of coffee cocktails going back many, many years, and so certainly it's the only one, but this is sort of the modern version of it. But since we have more than just Irish whiskey, as you can see, and so we're going to try an Irish coffee, and then we're going to try a couple other variations, and see which one we like the best. Because who doesn't like more booze? All right, now that we know a little bit about the cocktail, let's go and put it together and see which one we like the best. All right, and we're back and we're magically surrounded by ingredients. Well, just a quick note on how I'm going to do this. So normally if I was just making one of these cocktails for myself, what I would do is I would make some hot water first and I would pour it into the glass or into the cup or whatever. That way it keeps the cup nice and warm while I'm making the cocktail. Then dump the water, pour on our coffee, pour on our booze. Since I'm doing 4 cocktails and I want to kind of keep them all as warm as possible, we're just going to put our booze in first, put them in the cocktail, then we're going to go make our coffee, come back down, pour it in, put a little garnish on top, and that way I can taste them and see which one's the best. Again, if you're making this on your own home, warm your glass up first. It can help out a little bit. That being said, let's start off with our traditional, because what's more traditional than an Irish coffee? So we're just going to go a little fancy. I've got a Bushmills 10-year here. Yes, I'm not using Jameson, but Jameson's perfectly fine. Nothing against that. So we're just going to toss in 2 ounces of our Irish whiskey. The next one we're going to do is our Mexican coffee. So we're going to start off with here. Actually, I'm going to start off with our agave syrup. Now normally I probably wouldn't use agave syrup in a regular cocktail like this. You want to make it into a syrup or into a simple syrup type of thing. But here we're going to be putting a hot ingredient in here, so it's going to melt this into the cocktail nicely. So we're going to go for half an ounce. But it's agave nectar, excuse me, not agave syrup. All right. And I am just going to use some Blanco 1800 Silver. I think this is a very, very nice cocktail tequila. And you can certainly fancy these up if you want to put a little bit higher end spirit in there if you want to. But I think that's going to work just fine. Alright. Next we're going to have our Caribbean coffee. So we're going to start off with a Demerara simple syrup. So this is a 2-to-1 simple syrup made of Demerara sugar. So this is going to be a really, really sweet syrup. So we're just going to do half an ounce, kind of like we did with our Agave Nectar. And we're going to use 2 ounces of rum. In this case, I'm using Diplomatico Mantuano. It's a favorite in this household. We're going to toss in 2 ounces. All right. Now, for our Kentucky coffee. So this time, I'm going to start off with my bourbon. And we're just going to go 1.5 ounces, because I got a couple other things we're going to do with this. So, 1.5 ounces of our bourbon in there. We're going to use some of our bourbon cream. Remember from our bourbon cream tasting the other day. I'm going to add 1 ounce. And finally, this is one a lot of people maybe don't know about. I kind of learned about this. This is Licor 43. It is a Spanish vanilla liqueur. You don't need much. I'm just going to toss in about 1/4 ounce. I think it's going to give it a nice little vanilla kick on there. Okay, so we've got our cocktails half made. All we are now lacking is our coffee. So let's go make our coffee. And we have coffee. Okay, you can measure this if you want to. What we're looking for is there's, again, roughly 2 ounces in each one of these glasses, a little more in our bourbon one. And you want to put in 4 ounces of coffee, 2 to 1. But honestly, I kind of know where the line is on these, so, it's booze and coffee. We don't need to make it rocket science. So you just kind of, we're going to topple these off. And I made this a fairly rich blend. Because you really want your coffee to stand up to the ingredients you've got in here. Alright, and importantly, and most importantly, we need to have our little whipped cream float on top of here. I really recommend one of these things, they're very nice. Also, if you're planning on doing a lot of cocktails, this little drip coffee pot thing is very nice for doing infusions and a lot of other things. Alright, now the important part. I'm going to start with our Irish coffee. It's great when you have a mustache. This is why we keep bar napkins close by. It's really great. I mean, you get, I get a lot of citrus in the Bushmills 10 year, and it comes through. It's a little sweet, which you don't get in a lot of Irish whiskeys. The cream on top is sort of slowly dissolving into the drink. That's great. It's a good blend on the coffee too. That's just a great thing to sit by the fire with. All right. Next we are trying our, this is our I remember what I was doing. This is our Mexican coffee. If you've got a mustache, you'll feel sympathy for me. I really like that one a lot. I've already sampled through these a little bit when I was coming up with the idea for this video, and this is the one that kind of caught me by surprise the most. The Agave Nectar and the tequila have a very nice kind of crispness to them. So it's sweet, but it's not cloyingly sweet or anything like that. You get your sweet, but it's very crisp. It's very kind of light. Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, and our Caribbean coffee. Okay. If you're going just for richness, the Caribbean coffee is the way you're going to want to go. You got the Demerara syrup, plus you got a nice rich rum in there. It's a little sweeter than some of the other two. Well, certainly than that one, and even sweeter than the Mexican coffee. Very deep, very rich. By far the richest of all these. Very good. If you're a little sensitive to sweetness, I think maybe even the half an ounce of Demerara syrup you put in there, you could cut that back to about 1/4 of an ounce. I think it tastes pretty good, but if you're sensitive to sweetness, you might not like that quite as much. All right, and finally, as always, we go back to Kentucky. Ooh, very kind of light. Obviously, sounds silly to say creamy, but it is very creamy. You're getting bourbon in there, obviously, because there is bourbon in there. But that sort of sweet cream flavor is coming through. So we got vanilla in the whipped cream. We've also got vanilla in our vanilla liqueur. This is probably the, well, I don't know if I'd say the lightest. If you want something that's going to please everybody, that's going to please everybody. It's sweet. It's got some nice sweet cream flavor in there. It's just kind of I think that's kind of a crowd pleaser. Overall, which one would I have? It's a good question. I'm going to go through them one more time real quick. Again, your standard Irish coffee, it's a classic for a reason. It doesn't bring too much sweetness. If you would, you could always add a little bit of sweetness there. Maybe add just a little bit of simple syrup. but I don't think it necessarily needs it. I mean, one of those things that's very difficult when you're doing cocktail stuff is trying to figure out exactly where different people's palates are sweetness-wise. Because something that tastes vastly over-sweetened to me might taste just right to somebody else. I typically under-sweeten. So kind of take my opinion with a little bit of a grain of salt or a grain of sugar. Yeah, it's just really good. I don't know why. For some reason, the bitterness in the coffee and sort of that light crispness in the tequila just work really, really well together. I don't know quite how to describe why, but that one, it melds very well. The one thing that probably, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but this tastes like a complete cocktail. The flavors have melded together very well, and it sort of tastes a little more than the sum of its parts. Our Caribbean. Yeah, I think that's the one if you've got the feels and you really want something that tastes like just like a warm hug. Again, you got that Demerara syrup, the nice rich rum, the kind of a bitter coffee, and then your homemade whipped cream. And again, you don't have to make homemade whipped cream, no pressure, but I think it does add something a little bit. Yeah, that's just really great. And finally, our Kentucky. This is a really hard decision. They all sort of have their merits. Again, with the bourbon cream, you're getting a very bourbony flavor. These other ones, well, at least, certainly not so much with the Irish coffee. This sort of tastes, I think, the most like its base spirit. Because the Mexican coffee, definitely you taste a tequila, but the tequila is very much melding with the other flavors. Here the bourbon is kind of standing out from the other flavors a little bit. Kind of the same with the Caribbean coffee where the flavors are melding a little bit more. Here they're not melding as much, and the bourbon is kind of very much front and center. And again, we do have a little bit more, so we got a bourbon in there and a bourbon cream. So honestly, I would say try any four of these and you're not really going to be disappointed. Overall, I think I'm going to go with the Mexican coffee. I really like the way the tequila goes together in there, although the Caribbean coffee is a very, very close second. And on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a good drink, and have a good trip. And on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay warm out there. Take care of yourself. And I want you to have a good drink and have a good day.